hopping a hand for
Be careful.
And Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the Acement.
The Acement, yes.
Yeah, what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Hold on a second.
We usually drink bourbon on our end
Yeah,
when we
right.
do the podcast, so
That's all right.
feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You can shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories.
And welcome to the Acement, everybody. This is Scott Higgins, and I'm not alone this week.
Well, you haven't been alone. You weren't alone last week.
I might as well
You
have
had
been.
plenty of guests last week.
Yeah, thanks, you bastard.
And I am Ace Aceto, and I am back in the Acement.
Yes, back once again. And thank you, all of you, for joining us, as you always do. If you're listening and you download, thank you as well. Join us one Wednesday night. If you haven't before, we go live. Just go to Behind the Funny on Facebook, and you can see the announcements is when we go live, and you can actually see the Acement, and you can interact with us live. We'd love to have you join us.
We've got a whole comment section that we answer people.
Yes, and we love to have you guys live with us. If you are downloading us on your mobile device, listening to us in your car, wherever you listen to, please take a moment when you have a chance to give us that 5-star written review. It helps the podcast out a ton.
Yeah, definitely when you get a chance and not while you're driving.
Well, as long as you get that in, before, but
yeah.
No, but seriously, you guys, we've mentioned it before. It's very important to podcasters to get those reviews. 5 stars all at once. We would appreciate it very much. Yes.
That's right. Yes. We have to say that because some people do 1 star at a time.
Yes.
And we really appreciate it. So, hey, who's our date this week?
Our bourbon date this
we're
week.
on an exotic date this week.
Yeah, because we were starting to develop a relationship with Angel's Envy, and not that we don't like her.
I love her.
We love her very much, but we decided to go with kind of a mix this week. It's called, I don't know if it's Legend or Legend.
Something like that.
2 true legends, 1 truly unique bourbon. We're trying it out this week, first time for both of us, and it is actually very, very good.
Yeah, it's a mix. It's a mix between Japanese whiskey and Kentucky bourbon.
They have a experienced Kentucky distiller that does the mash and makes the bourbon, and then it is finished by a Japanese whiskey maker,
master blender.
Yeah, master blender. Yeah. So, and it's got a really nice flavor.
Yeah, it's smooth. I really like it. So,
cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Glad to have you back.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
So unfortunately for me, fortunately for all of you, and for my good buddy Ace over here, it is still friggin' Scottober.
It is the final episode of Scottober, and I'm really proud of this year. I mean, we've always done something special in Scottober, but we action-packed this month. How did you like your surprise guests last week?
Well, to be honest, you prick. It was interesting.
Yeah.
It was very, very interesting last week. I thought I had figured out who it might be, and no idea.
That was great. And you know what?
And they were amazing guests. They were amazing. Satori and Cody were phenomenal guests, brought some very interesting items from their museum. And we really appreciate them.
What's really good is Tom sent me a video of them showing you a video of the doll moving. And I think that is going to be the promo clip for their episode when we put it up. I'm gonna just for the hell of it, I'm gonna put that up on.
Let me tell you,
YouTube.
the spookiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
So, but hey, it's the final episode of Scottober, and we're so excited to have our guest. Tom Stewart couldn't be here tonight because he lost power due to the bomb cyclone.
I guess his area got hit pretty bad, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's without power. He was going to join us, but we're still very, very excited because he was able to secure a guest. And you've heard about this guy on past episodes.
Heard his voice
in
previous years.
Yes, and that freaked Scott out. So we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Yes,
but I love that we've been able to get this guy. We met him a couple of minutes ago, in the green room. really great guy. Very, very knowledgeable in the paranormal world. He is the director and creator of RISEUP Paranormal. So without further ado, we're going to bring in Ken DeCosta. Ken, welcome to Behind the Funny.
Hey guys, what's going on? Look, what do you got down there? It's like some Japantucky bourbon.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
That is a great description, Japantucky.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, it's blended by a master distiller out of Kentucky. His name is Fred Noe, and then it is blended and refined by Chief Blender, and I'm not even going to attempt to say it, Shinji Fukio.
Yeah.
So it's two legendary creators behind one legendary bourbon.
Well, it's Fukio great. So I like it.
When I think of bourbon, I think of Japan.
Yeah. No, you know,
doesn't?
It's funny.
Thank you.
It's funny because I have seen some Japanese whiskeys in some of the liquor stores around here in Coventry. So
yeah.
I haven't tried any of them. This is the first one, but I will say it's very smooth and it does taste really, really good.
I'm gonna say it's probably kick-ass.
Yeah,
it's very good. Very good. If you like bourbons, I highly suggest you try this one. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So listen, man, we're so excited to have you on because we've heard your voice before.
Yes.
Tom, I think I told you before the show, Tom had come in. This whole thing started, and we call it Scottober because Scott's afraid of paranormal and stuff. But we started a couple of years ago.
Is a relative term.
All right, he's a pussy.
Yes, I am a pussy.
But he, Tom came on a couple of years ago, and it kind of started becoming a tradition where every October we'd have Tom on at some point. And he, had done work with you for years, and he brought in some EVPs. And I think one of the most impressive ones, if we can jump right into what we heard, one of the most impressive ones was, and it kind of cleared up the whole, when people are in other countries and they're talking in English, and then you're you're talking to a ghost from another country, but they answer you in English. Like all of a sudden they what do they have, Rosetta Stone on the other side? But what was impressive, and I don't remember, I think it was at a mill in Woonsocket. Was it Woonsocket? Yes, where you said, right. And you heard you say, it was the wrapping up the investigation, and you said "Merci beaucoup."
Right.
And you actually heard someone answer you in French.
Repeated back to me. Yeah, it was kind of one of those deals because we've always asked ourselves the same question. It's like, do we become that enlightened on the other side where we can speak 17 languages?
Exactly.
So it's kind of when in Rome, so Woonsocket, as we all know, heavy French-Canadian population. I mean, essentially they built the city, they built the churches, they built the mills, they worked in the mills. So pulled out my best 10th grade Fringlish. It wasn't good, but it was enough to just ask some basic questions. So yeah, that particular thing, I got to honestly say, of the things that we've managed to document over the last, I've been doing this for about 7 years, since I was like a kid.
Okay.
And, we've had a group together for about 14, and that ranks in the top 3 of things that we've ever picked up. Beyond,
really,
it was just the context of it. It coming back, and nobody hears it until we review it later on. That was crazy, but
right.
I'll tell you what, when you hear that, that's when like the headphones go flying.
Oh yeah, I threw my headphones when I heard that for the first time.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
There it was.
The two that Tom had played for us that really just made the hair on my arm stand up was that one, because you could hear the French accent when you get the answer back. You could the dialect was just right there.
Yours was clearly Fringlish,
right.
But they answered with a very distinct French accent,
right. And then the other one was, I believe, at the Pain House.
Well, let's not jump ahead, because I want to ask him a little. I just want to only because we're going to get into the Pain House, but I wanted to ask him because you said 47 years. How did you? Yeah. Like, what was it that got you into paranormal? Obviously, it sounds like most paranormal investigators, there's some
experience or something that happened that drew them kind of into it.
Yeah, everybody's got a different superhero origin story on this.
Right.
some people had experiences and they want to delve a little bit deeper. I was a little bit of both. I had an experience when I was 12 or 13 where I saw an uncle drive by my house at 2 p.m, and I found out he died that morning. But,
wow.
Yeah, I know. But that, and the car, I could never run the car, really?
Right, right.
But I kind of put that in my back pocket, and I didn't talk about it for years and years and years and years. I just sort of like repressed it, moved away from it. To me, I got into this at a very, very young age because of the space program. When I was a kid growing up, astronauts were like real heroes.
Yeah.
Now they send a rocket up and everybody goes ho hum. But back then that was Buck Rogers stuff. So I was fascinated by that. And then this other thing, UFOs came along. Well, what's this?
Right.
So from then I started reading about that. Because growing up, there wasn't it's not like now. There was no internet, cell phones.
No.
I know it was the dark ages. I don't know how we survived it, but
you actually had to read.
And
and there wasn't even that much around to read, to be honest with you. But that kind of led into, well, what's this Bigfoot Loch Ness monster thing?
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, I had no interest in ghosts to begin with. I mean, ghosts scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
I mean, ghosts are what you see in your rearview mirror in the car, and it forces you off the road, hit a telephone pole. Who needs that aggravation, right?
Right.
But eventually, all roads kind of led to that. So that was the jumping off point for me. And then when I was about 18, that's when I started to kind of put feelers out to do more than just like read about it. I wanted to talk to the people that actually had these experiences, and if possible, go to the places they were taking place at, kind of figure it out. So to me, I guess my thing was always like, the impetus to me was, why are these people having these experiences? Where are they having them? Is there a common denominator? Is there, so it was like a fascinating exercise to me. So growing up, hey, listen, I played baseball, football, basketball. I was kind of a jock, normal kid growing up. But some people, some people paint. I went after ghosts,
Right. Where did you grow up?
I grew up and still live in Tiverton, Rhode Island.
Okay. All right. So South Fall River.
Yeah,
right.
South Fall River.
So it's interesting though, because, and can I ask, how old are you, Ken?
I am 65.
65. All right. Cause we're a little bit younger. We're 53, but in the 70s, early 70s, I remember, paranormal stuff was kind of big, because when you started mentioning like Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster, like that show In Search Of,
I was just going to bring that with Leonard Nimoy.
Shit out of me.
I watched that all the time.
As soon as that music started,
yes.
I got like hair on the back of my neck would start, going up, no matter what he talked about. And it was at the same. Yeah,
about that. As
In Search Of was big. Operation Blue Book was supposedly like there's these secret files, government files from the Air Force about UFOs, and that was a show. Supposedly, yeah. Well, now that's all been declassified, right?
It was all a smokescreen, yeah.
Yeah, right. So that's why I asked your age, because I was younger, but I remember all of that stuff got me interested in paranormal.
I was obsessed with In Search Of, but I loved the episodes on like the Loch Ness Monster and the Bigfoots and Easter Island when they did one on that and those type of things. The ghost ones, not so much, because to me, I was never going to go to Easter Island. I was never going to go to Loch Ness.
Yeah.
But when they did the investigations for the entities and the ghosts, those houses look like ones in my neighborhood.
Yeah, right. I didn't want to know something was right next door.
That was a bit too familiar.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think that why ghosts, when I was younger, sort of like put me off, because it's one thing to have a big hairy creature or a lizard swimming around in the lake,
right?
Or aliens coming down, but ghosts were us.
Right.
Yeah. It's like that's it. I'm going to come back, or people come back. I mean, it scared the crap out of you when you're a kid, but
of course,
right.
Actually, looking back on it now, because I used to watch it too. It was about the only thing on with Leonard Nimoy.
It was great.
Now we're 40 years past that, and it was just recently I decided to kind of revisit those episodes a little bit.
Yeah.
Because there was a thing on YouTube where they play them all. And amazingly, they were so far ahead and so accurate.
Really?
In terms of
Still,
what
they
were
hold up.
doing. Yeah. In 1972, what they were talking about, we're still like talking about it now. So it's held up to time very well, I think.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't watched them because honestly, I went down a YouTube rabbit hole one night, and as soon as that music started, I'm like, all right, I got to go to bed because I'm going to have nightmares. It's going to bring back nightmares from when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
And they're flashing all those different images from their different investigations over and over.
Exactly.
Now, do you remember kind of your first investigation or the first time you said, I'm going to go here and check this place out?
Yep. There was a place in Tiverton that had been, you know how it is in high school where it makes the rounds that house is haunted.
Yes.
Yes.
So, everybody, you drive by on the bus or whatever, and, you're just kind of looking in the windows.
Yeah, right.
See if something's staring out at you. A friend of mine, I guess I was just out of high school, and a friend of mine got a job as an apprentice plumber, and they were working on that house because somebody bought it. And I had told her, hey, Russ, is there like any shot that I could just kind of walk around? We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have all sorts of gizmos and stuff like that.
Right.
We just wanted to go in and check it out. And he got us in there. At the end of the day, his boss was just kind of like, cigar out of the mouth.
Yeah, these kids. Yeah, right.
So we went in there and absolutely nothing happened. I didn't hear any sounds or anything like that. But so that was the first one where I was actually like going to a location just to see, okay, is there anything to, I didn't know what I expected I was going to see, but after that, I actually dragged my poor friend Russ around grudgingly on some of these things. But back then, just not having a working knowledge of it, we probably did more to scare the shit out of ourselves than anything else. But it was kind of like that gateway drug to me that as I got a little older and I was really able to dive into this, it was in my town. You didn't talk about that in the 70s. You know what I mean? That was still a taboo subject, But every once in a while, somebody would say, that DeCosta kid's into this stuff. And somebody would talk to me like, hey, if you want to come here. It was very rare when that happened. But every once in a while, you could go to different places. And of course, there's the old fallback on the cemeteries and all the rest of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Which interestingly, I really don't bother with anymore, because to me, I don't understand why cemeteries would be haunted, but that's kind of like the last stop on the tour. But,
right. Yeah. Why are they going to hang around there? Why wouldn't they hang around where they lived?
And if they, and if they do, we know where they are, But I mean, there are cases like Swan Point
Cemetery.
Yeah. Tom has talked about it.
Right. Tom talks about that a lot. So there are some places that some things happen. So, I'm not above like, we'll take a walk through,
Yeah.
But most of the stuff we've done, honestly, since then, it's amazing. We have done asylums, penitentiaries, Newport mansions, theaters, schools, battleships. We have done a military base at one point. So we've gotten access to a lot of places that ordinarily would never have somebody like me in there,
Right.
But,
right.
So it's opened a lot of doors for us. And if nothing else, if you love history, then this is kind of the thing to get into, because we do a lot of research with background history and things like that. So it's interesting.
Right.
Well, plus overall that time from that first time through the last 40 years, technology has changed a lot. So the things you've developed to use as part of your investigations has really come a long way. And that's the other thing I always wonder. You can't go to your local community college and take a quick course in, ghost investigations and paranormal investigations. You nowadays you can, but when you started, you probably couldn't.
No.
So you got to kind of learn on the job, right? Is that how you learn, just kind of by doing, or did someone explain stuff to you? How did you pick up how to do things?
No, I never really had a mentor when it came to that, because there weren't a lot of people around. I think it was just trial and error for the most part. And then when this, became a thing, then you pick up things from other people. But Technology is like a slippery slope to me because it stands to reason we live in an age of technology. So it's going to find its way into everything. It's going to find its way into bowling.
Right.
You know,
right.
so
Correct.
it's going to find its way into fishing. It's going to find its way into everything. So stands to reason that that would happen here. And it was starting to turn the corner. And then there was a little movie called Ghostbusters in 1994 where all of this stuff, because Aykroyd is really into this. I mean, he is really into it.
I've heard him on interviews, and he's very into it.
Yeah, so that really got the ball running on the technology thing. To me, technology, it's great, but I've always subscribed to the idea that less is more sometimes because, you know, you're waving all these things around, and half of them, they don't detect ghosts. Spoiler alert. They don't detect ghosts just because they light up. They're detecting magnetic fields and electronic fields and things like that.
Right.
And I mean, they have a function if they're used correctly, but they're not ghost meters or anything.
Right.
No, and I was thinking more along the lines of like recording devices for like EVP sessions, cameras, and how cameras have developed over the years. Those type of things, obviously, you can use on a much better scale now than you could 40 years ago. Like, you know, how in the beginning you really
got a tape recorder, right?
Did you use like tape recorders to do an EVP session, or did you even do those back then?
When I had read somewhere about EVPs, and it was from years and years ago, a guy named Constantine Rodive, I think he was a Dutch scientist. He was using those. So I said, okay, well, we'll put them down. But I had one of the cassette, you know, remember you used to have
the
to
old time cassette,
record and play at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was magnetic tape. So we would go in and use those things. And you know, maybe about 2 or 3 years into it, I finally got the first thing I ever heard where I was sitting with my buddy in a room, and then you hear a woman's voice say, "Hello there." And it's like, you know, later on, it's like, what the shit was that?
You didn't, because you didn't
like,
hear it at the time.
It's just
right?
like Ghostbusters, the librarian. It's like, okay, we recorded something. What do we do now?
Yeah, right.
We didn't think this through. It's like, what do we do?
Oh shit, we caught something.
Yeah, exactly. So I was a couple of years into it, and I said, okay, there's something to this. It was a little spooky, but you know, it's what we signed up for. So I mean, the more you have on that, it's like carrot and stick. You want to get a little bit more.
Right. It's interesting that you said the whole, you know, like an EMF detector. It's not a ghost detector. It's an electromagnetic field detector. And, you know, we had Jason from TAPS on a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about how I remember growing up in Providence in the 6 tenement house my grandfather, you know, owned, dirt floor, exposed wires everywhere. Right. I never understood why I was so afraid to go in that basement. And then the more I started hearing these stories of, you know, like ghost hunters going into a basement and saying, yeah, you're feeling uneasy because there's exposed wires and you're getting bombarded with electromagnetic fields. Right. And it felt like, so I used to run up the stairs because it felt like someone was chasing me. Yeah. And I never understood that until I started watching these, you know, shows and learning about it, that it's just electromagnetic fields.
Yeah,
and that can cause it.
At certain levels, it affects the limbic part of the brain.
Right.
And that's where they have the God sense. And the God sense, just generally speaking, is that feeling that somebody else is there with you.
Right.
But it's usually limited to people who are electromagnetic hypersensitive.
Sensitive. Oh, so not everyone would feel it.
No, because anybody who owned a clock radio on their nightstand or has a cell phone would be seeing Aztec temples, you know.
Right. Yeah, so, right.
Yeah, there has to be a certain, it's like kind of like anything else. I mean, some people have it, some people don't. And there's ways to test that with EEGs and all sorts of highbrow stuff. But if you are EMF hypersensitive, then absolutely those things can affect you. Because I grew up in a basement the same way. I must have had all sorts of stuff. You know,
right.
Which explains a lot, actually.
Yeah, right. Explains a lot for me too.
Mystery solved.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't mean to cut you off before. I kind of wanted to get a little bit back into how he got started.
I'm glad you did.
But let's talk about our favorite place, because right before we went on,
don't say our.
Right before we went live, Ken was talking about one of their favorite places in Rhode Island is in Coventry, and I said I am very well aware of that because
So is
it's
our audience.
1 mile down the road.
Awesome.
So yeah, I've wanted to go and investigate Pain House for so long, and I know that during the summer, is it you guys that actually run it during the summer, like every other Saturday or something like that?
Yeah, we've kind of slowed that down a little bit. We do it once a month, starting maybe like in May, and
Okay.
we're wrapping up this month, a Saturday, in fact.
Okay.
But we
What are you
have
doing Saturday?
we have access.
I got a thing.
Actually, no, I'm doing a live event from the Conjuring House, actually.
Oh, are you? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's another place I'd love to do.
It is really cool. I was there yesterday just visiting with the owners.
With the owners.
They're
Yeah.
great, nice people. But we can set that up. We have unfettered access to the place. So anytime, Tom has mentioned it to me, but there was a day it just didn't work out.
It didn't work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, Scott's fine with it.
After Halloween comes and goes, we sort of like paranormal investigators drop off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
You can't get arrested as of November 1st. So
Really? Is it just it's only ghosts? Ghosts only come out around Halloween and summer, or
apparently.
yeah.
Well, you know how October is. It's like, hey, I've never been on your show before, and here we are, right?
Yeah,
October.
right. I know. Yeah, that's true.
So that's just kind of the way it is. But we got pretty much unfettered access to the place. So I would love to have you guys in.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it would be great. Anytime.
Tom has played us some pretty amazing EVPs from the Pain
House. Yeah.
And the one that still to this day, we talked earlier about the one from Woonsocket, but the one that really all-time hair standing up on my arms was the little girl voice when you had two female investigators that were saying, if I say A, you say, and they're doing the alphabet, and you hear that little girl's voice clear as day say D. And when I heard that the first time, the hair on my arms, the hair on the back of my neck,
he broke out in a sweat on his head.
It was so clear. That's why.
Yeah.
Because some of them, when you hear them, you're like, did I really hear that? Because they're not super clear. But when you hear the ones that are clear like that one, it was like, there's no denying what you just heard.
Right.
I mean, they're for clarity like that. I mean, they're probably rarer than you think. I mean, we can look at things and say there is definitely a voice there, but as far as what it's saying, it's either really low or it's really subjective. Like somebody else might say, "Well, you hear hello, I hear get out."
Right.
Maybe, and that's fine. I mean, that's all subjective. It's just the idea that there is something there that's not supposed to be there. But the one you refer to, Scott, I know that's it. Believe me, it blew our minds too.
Yeah,
that was just amazing. Those are the ones that made me kind of rethink things as I've been learning this over the last couple of years, because I had never listened to EVPs before Tom introduced them or anything. And for anybody listening right now, if you don't know, an EVP is
electronic voice phenomenon.
Right. Because we keep saying EVP. I just want to make sure.
And a lot of times to the point that that Ken made earlier, you're sitting in the room, you're talking, you don't hear it.
Right.
It's not like they were sitting there and heard that voice. They had to wait until they went back and reviewed the evidence and reviewed the tape before they actually heard that voice.
Right.
And I think the other one that Tom had talked about on that episode, or one of the episodes, was because the Pain House has been around for so long and it's been so many different things. It's been a private residence. It's been a bed and breakfast. It's been now it's a museum. But I guess at one point it was a speakeasy. And I think Tom said that, he asked, or someone asked, what kind of alcohol did you serve here? And someone clearly said wine, which was interesting because that's not something you think of at a speakeasy, but maybe they were making homemade wine and that was the only thing they could get.
I mean, the thing about Pain House and that what's really cool is when you get these things out of context and it's like, you hear spaghetti or something, something ridiculous like that, and it makes absolutely no sense. And then you will go back and, like with Pain House, we found out it was once 400 acres of orchards.
Oh, Oh, really?
Cider was a big deal. Grapevines around here were a big deal.
Wow.
Right.
So this is the kind of thing you could grow in this kind of temperate climate. So,
Yep.
and then you go back and you find out through history, it's like, oh yeah, they had like a little mini vineyard, you know, sort of like for them.
Right.
They would grow grapes and just make wine, you know, for them.
Right.
And then cider and things like that. And then you go, oh, okay, I get it.
And to that point, that's what makes it really interesting is, like you said, something comes out, you have no idea what that means. Then you do the history, and it's like, oh, it makes a connection, and it almost like lends more value to what was said, you know?
Yeah, now we try to figure it out because we don't want to go connecting dots, because that's
right
to say, oh, it's wine. They had grapes were, they invented grapes back then. So you just connecting dots. We want something a little bit more to the point that that bears out, we can document.
Right.
What were some of the things that you've gotten from Payne House in your investigations that were kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe we got this, or I can't believe I just heard that, or things that really kind of, you were like, Mike, this is amazing.
I'm gonna give you the Reader's Digest version of this.
Yeah.
But
just a couple of them.
At one point we were downstairs and it was kind of like a very inactive, quiet night, which is something people have to realize. There's hours of mind-numbingly boring nothing.
Yeah, nothing, right.
And it was one of those nights, and one of our investigators, our videographer, Julie DeMay, was kind of complaining about, nothing's happening. And then a little girl's voice goes, "Teddy bear." And as she pans the camera down, there's a little teddy bear sitting there, because we kind of put toys around the house. But the really cool thing is, if we're talking 17 and 1800s at Payne House, there's no one that has any reference to a teddy bear. They weren't invented till like 1920.
Really?
Named after Teddy Roosevelt, and they were made by a German manufacturer, Steve anyway, whatever it was.
His hair is up on his arms again.
So immediately what that makes us think is, okay, if this is a little girl or a child's voice from that era who doesn't know what this is, it sounds like she's learning from us.
Right. It's an intelligent haunting, right?
Exactly right, Ace. Yeah, exactly right. So she's picking up our little terminology and things like that.
Wow.
But there have been other things, like we've caught a rocking chair.
I've seen that video. Yeah.
Tom must have showed you that, because he set that up with Doreen Collins from Channel 10 that night.
Oh yeah.
And I was about to erase the clip until he called and said, "Hey, Doreen wants a little film clip of her like kind of faux flashing the camera or goofing around up there." I was about to erase it, and then when I reviewed it just before, when we were downstairs, see the rocking chair going.
Wow.
So I wish I could say it was like skill, but it was just dumb luck.
Right. It's just what you happen to catch. Right.
But there are so many things. At one point, I saw a little girl float across a hallway there. First time as an investigator that I've ever seen what you could term a ghost. And I'm going to tell you what, people who go around high-fiving each other, "Yeah, I saw a ghost," they probably didn't see anything, because when you do see something, I wasn't terrified or anything like that, but it just changes everything. You need a minute to process it, right? What did I just see? Why me? Well, why not me? You know what I mean? But it's why I'm here. But there have been all sorts of things, not only to myself, that we've recorded. I mean, there's literally reams of data over 10 or 11 years, whatever we've been there.
That you've been
from
there.
That particular place, that footsteps coming upstairs and no one's there, things like that. But these are all things we've documented, recorded, or have on video. So that's that's the cool part.
Wow. So and because I'm in Coventry, I happen to know this. So the building right in front of the Payne House, the old it was up until like last year, it was like the communications building for the fire department.
Yes.
Payne House just purchased that. Has there been anything documented in there that you're aware of?
We have not been in there. I'm not sure how long ago that they purchased it.
It's literally within the past month or so.
Yeah. So what I would like to do is get a hold of them there and say, "Hey, we'd like to take a shot at that."
Yeah, because I don't know how old that building is. Obviously, it's not as old as the Payne House, but it's got to be early 1900s or
originally where the stables were located because this was a carriage stop.
Oh, that's
and
right.
This is how the whole business model came into effect, because from, say, Boston to Hartford, Coventry was sort of like the midway spot. And, you know, on a carriage back then, it would take you about a week to make the trip.
Right.
So they would come in, and the guy who bought it, named Brayton, was a blacksmith by trade. So his son had this idea that, hey, we'll make an inn, a tavern, we'll stable and shoe the horses, we'll feed the horses overnight, feed everybody breakfast, get them on their way. So that particular building has its origins as the stable or the blacksmith shop. So there's something to that.
So that's the reason. That's probably the reason why they wanted it when it came up for sale, or, you know, when they moved the communications division out of there, it made sense to reclaim that for, because my understanding is they bought it for like $1. You know, the Payne House Museum bought it for like $1 because it's a historic landmark, you know, and it belonged to them in the first place. So that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Now you mentioned a lot of different locations. You know, where are some other of those locations where you're like, you had some amazing moments of stuff that you've picked up over the years? Because I mean, obviously Payne House is near and dear because Ace, you know, told me about it, and I had to drive a different direction going home from that point on. Once he told me, "Hey, do you know that place you drive by on your way home every night?
That red light you stop at the end of my
look
street?
in the window."
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and all I could do every time I drove by it is look in the friggin' windows. So now I drive 45 minutes out of my way to go home. No, but seriously, there's, I mean, you guys, you know, because Tom has told us, have gone to some amazing places. So there had to be some other moments that you're like, you know, just kind of blew your mind a little bit.
A lot. I mean, spending a year at Belcourt Castle in Newport, one of the Newport mansions.
Yeah.
Alex and Ani scooped that up. I mean, they have artifacts from like 33 different countries in there. They were collectors. The Tinnies, when they own it, they were collectors.
Right.
And we've seen everything in there, from doors closing overnight with nobody even in the building. We just let cameras run, to apparitions we saw, to all sorts of voices in different languages. And that's kind of what triggered us. We learned that it's just kind of like, nah, it's not like it is on TV. We got to figure out what it is that's being said.
Right.
But we've had things happen to us in some of the craziest places, on battleships, where
that's crazy.
We just see figures walking, and immediately we're, you know, walkie-talkie, like, who's around, who's doing this? Nobody. Penitentiaries. I mean, we've been to San Diego, we've been to Florida, we've been to a lot of time Pennsylvania. I hate Philadelphia, worst city in the world, but but I digress.
Yeah. So have you done Eastern State Penitentiary?
Yes,
in Philly?
Have.
Yeah.
Yes, we have. And it was okay. I mean,
a
lot of times you got to be careful to manage your expectations, because just because you see it on TV, I'm sure people have had incredible experiences there, but it guarantees nothing. But
right. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen for you that particular night. Yeah.
But like, to finish the point, some of the most amazing things that have ever happened, I couldn't tell you exactly where they were because they've been in people's homes.
Oh, okay.
In, so
private residence.
Protect everybody's privacy, because I don't want the kids being made fun of, and I don't want, you know, all the rest of that stuff. But we've had some amazing things happen in people's homes. Nothing evil. I don't think we've ever encountered evil. I mean, you know, pissed off spirits, you know, people that were maybe a-holes in life that are a-holes in the afterlife, because they retain that personality. Yeah.
Well, wasn't the Payne House, wasn't one of the other
entities,
spirits or entities, some grumpy old man? Like, wasn't there one where, like, and I don't know, I might have been on Ghost Hunters, where someone walked upstairs and they said, the little girl said, "Shh, they're coming."
No, Tom told us about that.
Tom told us that.
Tom told us about
that. And then at one point,
that was before the investigation
growl.
Actually started. When they were setting up, they picked that one up.
But there was also at one point on something, I remember hearing something about the Payne House where there was a growling. You know, and it wasn't an animal growl. It was like a person growl.
Like a person going, "Arr!"
Yeah.
there's one particular room there. They called it the Traveler's Room. And they've really done a nice job inside. They did a lot of repainting and a lot of plastering, which it desperately needed. So they've changed a lot of things around. But the biggest guest room, they called it Traveler's Room. And I think there's a couple of beds in there. And it's always been said or surmised that that's a male presence in there. And he's really kind of like grumpy and pissed off and doesn't like women. And we had a woman one night in there, you know, like some people come in and it's just, okay, we're ready to go. And they'll go, if there's anyone in here, it's like, Jesus, they can hear you.
Yeah.
You know, you're not trying to wake them. You're just trying to communicate with them. So use the inside voice.
Yeah, right.
And a little later on, they walked out, and I don't know if Tom was in there. I almost want to say Tom was in there, but I'm not sure of that. But a group stayed behind, and they recorded a man like saying "bitch."
Really?
Swear to God.
Wow.
Swear to God. And it's like I'm listening to it, and we're just kind of like, I'm going to have to agree with you on that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You are, you know.
Yes.
You know, you mentioned that about people shouting. One thing that I noticed in all the stuff that Tom has played for us is you have this style when you're doing EVP. You're very cordial. You know, you always have a very calming voice when you're asking your questions. And at the end of the session, you always thank them for their time and you're very cordial. Is that just how you've always been since the beginning? Is that something you've just kind of learned to do as you've gone along because it seems to have worked better for you? You know, but I find that interesting that how you literally act like you're a guest in someone's home when you're talking to people.
Yeah. Well, a long time ago, you got to find your own way. The thing is, you have to be yourself. I don't look at anything other than respect. I don't look upon it greatly.
Yeah.
When someone, you know, tries to play the role like they see on TV, push me down the stairs, take me on. It's like, oh,
right. Yeah. I was just going to say, well, that's one of the reasons why we're friends with Jason and not other TV paranormal people is because you guys Rise Up Paranormal, are you part of TAPS?
I am,
or have you worked
we've always worked very closely together. I happen to be a member, sort of like I'm a crossover episode.
Okay.
You know,
but that's what what always impressed me about Ghost Hunters, even as a show. Yes, it's on TV, but they have a similar style to you, like quiet, like when Steve Gonzalez goes in and he's very quiet, very calm, and even Tango,
right?
Like those guys are much like what we've heard you be like on these things. And I never understood why, to your point, other people are like, come on, bring it on. And, and then they get possessed every episode or every third episode, not to name names.
I think is performance art. And it's for dramatic effect for an audience. That's
for the audience, right? But you don't need it. You don't need it
because almost from the beginning, I adopted the attitude that not all ghosts are evil or out to get us. And for all the attention that this gets, you got to still remember that it's done on the shoulders of the dead,
right?
The deceased, and they were mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents, just like
people, just like us, right?
So the idea is if they have a conscious presence in a place, you want to approach it like, I don't live here, I'm a guest. So if you're here, this was once yours, you introduce yourself and you just basically try to have a conversation as though you were having a cup of coffee and you're sitting across the table and you're meeting somebody new. And, it's awkward, but
course,
you're just kind of like, so
you're a guest.
I try to never use past tense. Like I'll say, did you have kids? I will say, how are your kids?
Right.
Into the assumption that you're still together, like I would anybody else. Because, if somebody showed up at your door and said, hey, you Scott Higgins? Yes, I am. Well, I have a few questions for you. You'd be like, hey, well, first of all, who are you?
Yeah, right.
And what kind of questions are we talking about here? So you kind of set that up. Where like, hey, I'm not here to ask you to perform for us or do tricks or move stuff around. I just want to, if you're capable and willing to talk to me,
I want to get to know you.
Just ask you a few questions about, I'm learning about this place, and I just find that it works for me. Just to be a little bit more conciliatory and always ask, is there anyone, can we help you? Is there anything we can do to help?
Right.
Instead of just talk to me, say this, say that, say
yeah,
that.
like it's a trick, like it's a pet, or like, hey, dance for me, clown, dance for me, monkey. It's like, no, that's not it. They were people. You're just trying to get to know them.
Right. And I always admired that style. And I was wondering if you found that over the years that you got more response or better responses because you've treated it that way.
In a word, yes. I think so. I think so. It's like you're asking a little girl about her ABCs, or you take the trouble to go to a place that has a heavy French Canadian influence and ask questions in their language. Well, that's just kind of like, if you're going to take the time to do something like that, I mean, to me, that would mean something like, hey, this guy's trying, so I'll just toss him a little bone here.
Yeah, exactly.
Make him happy.
Have you ever been on an investigation where you absolutely just felt uncomfortable?
Yeah. That I could probably, on less than all the fingers on one hand, work, because I don't have that gene in me. I'm as psychic as this camera I'm staring into right now, because I don't have that thing. Although there are people who claim that I do. Who are in the psychic realm. Oh yeah, you just don't know it, and I'm just whatever.
Yeah.
But I have been in, so I don't really. The hardest thing to do, it's like, okay, so I'm in the Conjuring house yesterday, and there's been movies made about it, and articles, and YouTube, and you're bombarded with all this story. One of the hardest things to do, regardless how long you do this, is to just check that at the door.
Right.
Block out the noise and just say, I'm just going to walk in this place. I'm not going to think about witches and
no, it's a house. It's a house that people live in right now, just like we're in my house. You know what I mean? Yeah,
exactly. But there have been instances where, definitely, to answer your question, on some occasions I've gone into a place and it just feels off. Feels like a bad vibe. It's like, something's not right. Something's going to happen here. Something is going to happen here.
Yeah.
And then more often than not, our instincts or that intuitive nature we have, sometimes it's right. Something actually does happen. So you pay attention to your body, but I'm just not one of those people who goes into places and like, ooh,
right.
No, and that's what I found too is through most of the people we've talked to is it's not like the movies. It's not like you're going to get picked up and flung across the room or anything like that. It's just, and Tom has talked about it in the past where you felt like whatever is that, whoever is there just really doesn't want to be bothered and doesn't want you there. So it's just this uncomfortable feeling like we're just not welcomed right now, type of thing. More than the feeling that you're going to get dragged down the hallway or something like that.
Right.
One of the toughest things to do, in my mind, is to, let's say, a couple of years ago, we spent a lot of time at the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast, right?
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
How many people have gone through the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast investigating? Tens of thousands.
Oh,
right.
So those are the toughest places to do, because I don't know what the magic question is that whoever is there has not heard a gazillion times.
Right.
Good point.
So, so it's always sort of like we almost make an apology for it. And this is why when we went in there, we just took a different tact. He said, we're not here to relitigate a trial. We're not here to elicit a confession from anybody. I want to talk to Lizzie if she's here about her work with animals, her work with the women's church group, different things that we'd found out about her life, just to get off the beaten trail a little bit, to see if that elicits, any kind of interest other than, did you do it? Confess.
Yeah, right.
Because it's been done. It's been
Well,
done
now,
a million times.
did she live in that house when she died? Did she die in that house or no?
No. She actually lived in a place called Maplecroft, which is also in Fall River in the Highlands, in the
Highlands area, right?
Old money section.
Yeah,
And,
near the hospitals.
And amazingly, I think to her credit, she was kind of shunned in society at that point because she had that scarlet letter on.
Right.
But yet, when she got her inheritance, she purchased a house dead smack in the middle of all these snooty people and basically just went,
just to go up their ass. Yeah.
I'm living in the middle of, man, I give her credit for that. But I'll also tell you one thing. We have investigated Maplecroft, and in some aspects, even more haunted than the bed.
More activity. Well, because that's where she lived longer, right?
I never expected it.
Really?
Until I'm sitting in what they had a breakfast nook in there, and I'm with our camera person, and we're just setting up, and we're just shooting the breeze. And to my right, I hear like somebody in the corner talking. I'm just kind of like, "Oh, you're kidding me?"
Right.
So it's like, okay, we're off and running. So
see, and that's the thing. I would expect more activity where she lived until she died, as opposed to the house that was. You know, I would imagine you would get activity from her mother and father in the Lizzie Borden house, but not so much.
Maybe not, because not everybody sticks around.
I get it. I get it. And that's the thing we've learned. The difference between an intelligent haunting and a residual. So maybe she's residual in her house.
Right. Right.
I don't know.
But I think both of those places, oftentimes we run into a combination of both.
Yeah, really.
Where we have like some kind of, an intelligent spirit who acknowledges, and then you have residual noises and things, footsteps upstairs, nothing's out of place. I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of it has to do with interdimensional theoretical physics, which is interesting.
Yeah.
We're tapping into something that happened 150 years ago. It's just kind of like when people, this is a story that's been kicking around for decades about people on Benefit Street in East Providence, seeing like a carriage pulled by horses coming down the road, and then suddenly, boom, it's gone.
Wow.
And that's been a common story there. People see Poe on Benefit Street, where he spent a lot of time.
In the window, right. Yeah.
Right. People like that. The Athenaeum there, people say that they swear they've seen him sitting on the steps.
Really?
So you're not necessarily looking at a ghost. You're looking at what they call a time slip.
Yeah, we
just sort of for a brief moment, you're looking 100 years ago, and then boom, it's gone.
We talked about that when Jason was on. Could time be folding on itself where? Because he said that they were doing an investigation. I don't know if it was the Stanley or the George Washington Hotel up in the White Mountains, but it was, you're hearing someone saying, "Who is that? Who's here?" And they hear your voice. So they, could it be someone 100 years ago?
Timelines.
Yeah, two timelines that intersect, and someone from 100 years ago hears your voice and thinks, "Oh, there's a ghost in here."
I'm the ghost, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what's so interesting.
I think that dimensionally lines kind of run parallel, but every once in a while they'll do this.
Right.
And then continue on their way. I mean,
and honestly, if you believe in quantum theory and string theory and all these other, physics things that are way beyond me, but if you do believe in that stuff, then that is completely plausible.
I didn't know I'd have to do homework tonight.
Yeah, right. Well, it's kind of,
they said there would be no math tonight.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. Great Chevy Chase line.
But if you look at even The Shining, there was that was kind of the whole concept of that. He's sitting in the bar, and there's a whole party going on,
and then of course the end.
Well, yeah,
him in the picture at the end.
The Sixth Sense was the same way.
Sixth Sense.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
But listen, Michio Kaku says it's conceivable, and he's a shit lot smarter than I am.
Yeah.
No, he's brilliant. Yeah.
Right. So that's the interesting thing is it paranormal, or could it just be physics and quantum physics and string theory that timelines are folding on each other, and what we think is a ghost, they think we're the ghost.
That's what people like Ken are trying to figure out for us. So we can explain this stuff.
Yeah.
That's what makes it interesting, and that's what keeps you guys out there
That's
trying to figure it out.
I don't know where it's going to lead. You know, we probably won't figure it out in our lifetimes, but you know, it's
Right.
the journey's pretty cool.
Now, any places on your bucket list that you've always thought would be a place you want to investigate that you haven't had a chance to yet?
Yeah, there are 2 places, and we're going to try to take care of one next year, and that's Savannah, Georgia.
Okay.
Because that is a place with it's a city that's essentially built on its dead, which may be the cause and effect of what happens down there. But there is just place after place after place after place. And ever since I watched that movie, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil,
Yes.
when I saw all of the moss covered, I'm like, oh my God, what an incredibly beautiful place.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's haunted AF, right?
Yeah.
So
Is
there
it
are all
really?
sorts of places. And the other one would probably be any place in England. And that one, I mean, we have invitations literally to go there and stay with people in Ireland and in England. And then just kind of like, oh, Ken will take you around. We'll show you to the castle. We have our ghosts here, you know?
Yeah.
Grab
And
a Guinness. We'll go upstairs and talk to my grandfather.
Listen, if you
You know.
go to Ireland, count us in because we'll come over. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll do a
I mean,
couple live shows. With
anytime
Over
I can.
there,
Anytime I can mix beer and paranormal investigations, I'm in.
Oh, I'll be
Win-win.
in the ghost if there's Guinness
Win-win.
around.
Yeah, right.
if you're over in the UK and you don't have a ghost, they like kind of like look at you like,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
you're not in.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, think about it. America is only 200 over a
That's
little
what I
over
was just
200
going to
years
say.
old. You're
Infants.
talking Europe, thousands of years old.
I've been lucky enough to go to Europe, to Italy specifically, and you're standing in places that were built in 79 to 82 AD.
Right.
And yeah, I'll go to Gettysburg, which was less than 200 years ago.
Right.
So
Well, and that's why it's funny. We asked Jason the same question, and he said the Colosseum in Rome would be on his bucket list because he was like, think of how many people died there. Think of how much energy must be
Well,
in
think
that
of-
place.
And if trauma is one of the main triggers for
Right.
staying here, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, hell in a handbasket. That's
Being eaten by
I agree
lions.
with him. That's got to be crazy there.
Well, yeah, because 90% of the people didn't want to be there to begin with.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, that was I got to tour it, but that was before I started really learning about the whole paranormal side of things.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
look at
so-
it very differently now as I walk through
yeah,
there.
so,
And some
I
of the
mean,
old churches, that they have over there and everything.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You know, I mean, I would love to see all the stuff the Vatican hides from us. They must have some.
Oh,
yeah.
my
Right.
God.
Not to Dan Brown it or anything, but they must have some stuff there that they just like they would they would kill you if you knew it. You know.
Right.
I was just going to say Dan Brown is speculation of what we think they might have.
Yeah. Right.
But imagine what they really have down there.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are other places. I mean, New Orleans. You know, the usual.
I was going to bring up
suspects.
New Orleans.
Not to jump back, but you mentioned the Vatican. I toured in the Vatican. My daughter was living over there, so we went to visit her. And when you go to, the Vatican and you're going into St. Peter's Basilica, in the basement of the basilica is where they entomb the popes. And so all their bodies are there, and you're walking through, and there's the tomb of all these popes. And one of the tombs supposedly is Peter.
Oh, really? Because he was the
his-
first pope.
His remains are supposedly right in there.
Wow.
It's behind glass and you can't get anywhere near it.
Right.
But then you go through the other section and there's all these, sarcophagus with the,
Yeah.
that are set up and all these bodies. And I'm thinking now, looking back, that there's got to be a lot of activity around those places. 'cause
Somewhere
there's
like that.
centuries and centuries of stuff there, not just, a couple hundred years, but just
Right.
I mean, I
going
think
back
a lot of
forever.
places there's a different activity, and it's not because the question at the end, and I know that I'm just off on a tangent here
No,
myself,
good, yeah.
but often we just like associate bad with the idea of ghosts and things
right,
like that.
right.
And I would submit to you that these things are really, in the grand scheme of things, pretty extremely rare. Like
Mhm.
a typical question I get, have you ever encountered something demonic? No.
Mhm.
I don't believe I ever have. I don't believe I've ever had anything follow me home. I mean, I've been doing it long enough. Law of averages would
Yeah.
state that somebody is over here.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But No, I don't think so. And I think that they're so rare. This is why we still talk about the case in St. Louis that spawned The Exorcist. We still talk about it.
Right.
And the reason being is that these instances, they're so rare,
right,
that we still got to harken back to, 50, 60 years ago to find a case like that. And it's
Right.
not to suggest it doesn't exist. I have had my debates with Catholic exorcists about this,
Mm-hmm.
about the origins of demons, where I think a lot of this just came from really good stories,
Yeah.
whether it's Dante's Inferno,
Mhm.
Paradise Lost. And every religion tends to borrow from an older. Hey, that's
Right.
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 That's
Yeah.
a really good story. We could keep people in line with that. Yeah, we're just gonna borrow.
Exactly. Right. Right.
When you look at hell originates from Nordic, Scandinavian.
Right. Hades.
Hell was Hel. It was not only a place but a person. It was a woman with an absolutely gorgeous face, and then the other side was ugly, kind of like Two-Face and Dick Tracy.
Two-Face.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it suggested the duality of man, good and evil.
Right.
And hell to them was what they lived in. It was icy, it was cold, and then they get a hold of that in the Middle East. And what's the worst climate place to be in for them? Heat.
Heat. Right.
So
So now you
suddenly
got
hell becomes
flames.
this place with flames laughing at you.
Right.
So it's not to downplay it, but I think it's okay to ask those questions. Like, is a lot of this just based on literature, or
Right. Well,
what's the
it's
deal?
interesting because even Jason said it when he was on. He said something like, the only time I've ever heard of anyone being like demons or possession, they're from a religious person. Atheists never talk about possessions or demons or So yeah, you're right. It could it come from that? Because it's funny. I have friends who I grew up with who are very, very Catholic. I'm Catholic, but friends who are very Catholic who are like, oh, I don't believe in ghosts. Oh, but you believe in angels. Aren't angels nothing more than ghosts? They're people who used to live on the earth. You're just saying that they have wings. You know what I mean? It's the same thing.
Yeah. Excuse me, I just burst into flames here.
Yeah. That's all right. I'm about to burst into flames too any second.
You brought
now.
up angels and burned our guest.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, I just think, but a lot of it is also, in every religion, there's some basis of good and evil in all of it.
Yeah.
But culturally, if you look at Native Americans, the indigenous people, they would call upon spirits to possess them for wisdom and knowledge and guidance and so forth.
Right.
And then, in Christianity and Catholicism, we look at it like, oh my God, this is like the worst thing in the world.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's what it all comes down to a lot of times, man.
Listen, I've said it. It's a premise for a joke that I haven't done yet because I probably will burn in hell for this. But I'm like, what if
You've
Bible
already lit that fuse a long time ago.
But I'm like, think about it. Like, even if you look at Star Wars could be a religion. It's good, it's evil, it's the Force, it's this. How do we know the Bible wasn't just a script for a play someone wrote?
Hi
everybody, I'm Jesus.
I'm going to hell for this. I know.
I just don't have. I can't take you to task for that.
Right? Exactly.
I have to sit here and go.
What if some guy in the Middle East was writing a play 2,000 years ago and wrote this play and then said, "Hey," and then he's like, where the hell did my script go? I don't know where it went. And then all of a sudden, some guy finds it and he goes, "Oh my God, it's from the hand of the Lord."
And his buddy comes back from Rome and goes, "Hey, there's a bunch of priests doing your play."
Yeah, exactly.
Right. In the back seat of a chariot.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
If I had $1 every time that happened.
Oh my God.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I was drinking Legion in Rome and I left my script in the back of a chariot.
It's interesting though that even I've had this talk with some people where in some instances the paranormal has become a religion unto itself to some people.
Yeah.
I can see that.
It really has.
I can see that.
Everybody tries to have canon in it, all these theories. This is how ghosts, this is what they do.
Right.
Because in the paranormal, we do love our theories and what theories are basically is that we don't have a definitive answer.
Right.
We
exactly.
come up with theories.
And the basis of religion is belief without, solid proof.
Unquestioned belief. Yeah.
Right.
it's
And
fake.
so paranormal,
fake.
we don't have scientific proof yet. Yes, you have evidence, but
Mhm.
you don't have
What does it
full
mean?
scientific proof yet.
Right.
So yeah, I can see why people would associate that with a sort of religion, if you will,
Yeah.
type of thing.
Oh, most
Because
definitely.
spirits have been related with religion forever.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
well,
if you look at spiritualism, right, the 1800s, it was huge.
Right.
And this is
Right.
the idea that spirits want to communicate with us. They look
Yeah.
forward to it, and they'll tap and bang, and
Jen had a good point.
and then we're still living that with taps and bangs.
Right. Right. So our one of our viewers, Jen, said, didn't Scientology originate from L. Ron Hubbard's books, once considered fiction? Yeah, he was a science fiction writer.
Right.
I mean, I watched a documentary about Scientology, and I'm like, we literally took a book that some dude wrote about, like a
science fiction book.
a science fiction book, and then all of a sudden
They
they
created a
said,
religion
yeah,
out of
there's a
that.
religion. Yeah, there's these. I mean, honestly, it's just like Star Wars, because the aliens have some sort of thing that they could put in you, and depending on your level, depends on what level in the religion you are. Well, isn't that the same thing as Star Wars with midichlorians? That people who are force sensitive have high midichlorians. I'm geeking out right now.
You really
I know.
are. You
we
took
should
that
really.
to a new
all of a
level.
sudden, it's a comic.
Oh,
All
wow.
of a sudden, it's a Star Wars.
Okay,
We're gonna do Star Wars in November.
I was gonna
science
say,
fiction November.
Now he's going to have a Star Wars month in May.
I'm
the
looking to what I got in my background on Star Wars. That's the other one.
One of my favorite jokes ever about religion was Kathleen Madigan.
Yep.
She's a great one of the funniest comedians in the country, not just female comedians.
No, she's hilarious.
She's hilarious. But she said, you know what? There's so many different religions in the world, and everybody believes in something different, that eventually when we die, we're all going to go to wherever we're going, and some of us are going to be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to be like, oh my God, I was way off. Is he wearing a who farted hat?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I didn't even.
Well, you get there and you're like, holy shit, the Muslims were right. I got 99 virgins waiting for me. This is great.
And like Robin Williams said, and anybody that's been one virgin said, I don't know, really. Maybe not.
That's the crazy part about the paranormal. And in a way, I guess it's cool.
Yeah.
Because you can get you can get an atheist who is a paranormal investigator. You can get an agnostic who's a paranormal investigator. You can get, whether you're a Jew or a Catholic or a Muslim,
yeah,
you can be a paranormal investigator. So it almost kind of transcends all of these things.
Right. Because to your point before, it's not just about religion, it's about spirituality. Every religion believes in spirituality in some sense, right?
That's right. That's right. I always consider myself a spiritual. I'm a lapsed Catholic, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
But I consider myself a spiritual person, which may be the ultimate religious cop out. It's like, no, I'm spiritual, so I'm still good.
Right. Right. Yeah. Right.
But when we have people say, do you have any kind of rituals before you go into a house? Do you? And I always, can you imagine living in that house and then somebody shows up with a priest and a bunch of people are on your front lawn chanting and throwing holy water around before they come in your house, and you're looking out the picture window going, I'm so screwed here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah. You're yelling out the window as a ghost going, but I was a Jew.
Right,
what are you bastards doing here?
I know. Get off my lawn.
So to me, it's just kind of like, some people do it ritually where they, and listen, if that's your thing, you go ahead and do it. I don't know if I do it in front of somebody and, jack their anxiety level up.
Right.
But to me, it's just like, I just get ready for it. I don't do anything connected with religion. To me, my preparation is just to have my notes together, have my research together, have a plan, which may go sideways in 35 seconds after walking in the door. But just come prepared. And I believe that you should be the calmest person in the place, because if you got a family sitting around, there's kids, whatever the reason, they're scared. The best possible outcome to me is to find out that, oh, you got squirrels in your attic. I mean that literally, not figuratively.
No, you're right.
It
was squirrels in their attic. Yeah, right.
But the best possible outcome is to say there's nothing here. You know, the kids don't have to be.
They don't have to be scared.
It's not our job to find ghosts. Okay, it really isn't. The purpose of what we do is not to go in and find that damn ghost. It's to kind of document, figure out what's going on, be the calmest person in the room. Because when I walk in, if somebody says, do you want coffee? Absolutely, I'll have a cup of coffee with you. And you'll sit down at the table and maybe a few appropriate, well-timed jokes. How's everybody doing? And, you know, they'll look at you and say, well, this guy isn't freaking out. So, you know, maybe we got the right guy here. Whereas some like to come in and they've already got the holy water flying. They got a priest behind them. And that's what I mean. A lot of times, unfortunately, guys, I am not going to lie. Some of this is performance art for a lot of people.
Right.
For some, you're right. And that's what I liked. You know, I think it was Jason when we had him on. He said para just is like other than normal.
Right.
That's all. It doesn't mean that it's a ghost. It doesn't mean it's this, it's that. It's just not normal. So we're going in to help these people.
Right.
And you know, sometimes, like you said, it's squirrels in the attic. And we want to be able to tell them that so that they can rest easy at night. That's what we're there for, is to help these people out.
Before I had this house, I lived in Western Cranston for 5 years, and I had an older house. It was an older colonial. And I remember my ex and I, you know, laying in bed one day, hearing scratching in the walls, and we freaked the fuck out. I mean, we didn't know what it was. And it turns out there was something in the walls. There was a squirrel in the attic or whatever. Yeah. It happens, you know. That's what's great about people like you, people like Jason, who want to go in and just find the answers. I want to go in with no preconceived notions. I just want to go in, gather the evidence, analyze the evidence, and then come up with what I think is the best answer. And it's not always going to be a ghost. It's going to be animals. It's going to be, you know, whatever. That's what. Like you said, if you could put a family at ease because it's a squirrel in the attic, oh my God, that's
successful mission.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
It's like some people define sex.
Sex. Well, we could talk about that too.
That's a whole new podcast.
Yeah, that's
another hour.
It's after 8 o'clock.
Welcome to the Aceman, everybody. It's the all sex podcast.
Yeah, it's like sexual paranormal podcast.
What kind of guest is this?
Yeah,
I like this guy. A lot of subjects.
People define success as, oh, we caught a ghost, but success can come in, you know, different forms. To me, it's always been like running a good operation, systematic, you know, thinking of everything, covering all the bases. And if you walk away, whether you get something or not, you're successful. But, you know, if you've lived in a place for 30 years and you get a hold of me, first of all, the trust you're putting in me, because you're telling me stuff as a total stranger, you're probably not going to tell your family, your coworkers, your friends. But me as a total stranger, you're putting that faith in me. So I take that seriously.
And they're inviting you into their home.
Hello.
Right.
So the idea is if they've lived there for 20 years and they've had A, B, C, D, E, F happen.
Right.
So we go in there for 6 hours. Is it really reasonable to expect that everything you've ever experienced in 20 or 30 years there
is going to
happen to me in 6 hours?
Right.
You know, if we walk away with one thing, let's say we get a voice that, because I run it through sound programs, voice analysis, I can tell you if that's an actual voice or if somebody kicked a chair in the other room.
Right.
Because sometimes when you record it, it might sound like "got the rock out," and it's actually somebody kicking a chair.
Right.
So once we run through all of that, I can come back and say, okay, here's something I can't explain. It doesn't sound like something's out to get you. So I'm going to give you a conclusion and maybe some advice, but in no way, I'm not painting myself to be the last word in this.
Right.
All I can tell you is draw from the experience I've had at other places. Don't allow yourself to be a victim. Affirm yourself, because you're busting your ass to pay the mortgage on this place. And I've had people, it's like there's 5 different rooms in a 9-room house that they don't want to go into.
Right.
And that to
right.
me is unacceptable. It's like, come
Wow.
on, man, you got to claim your space here. And sometimes
Right.
all it is it sounds crazy, but you stand in the middle of the living room. It's like, all right, ghost. And I'm not saying you chase them away, but
No.
psychologically, that makes you feel as though you're taking power back. So all these
Right.
little things that you can do, they help people.
That makes
That's
sense.
awesome. That's awesome. This was fun.
That makes total sense. Yeah,
I feel a little calmer this month.
You know, it's interesting
I feel a
because
little
I've
calmer.
seen a change in Scott over the month, that he has gotten more comfortable with
Join
this.
us.
Yeah.
I still
Well-
don't know how I would handle an actual investigation, but
Well, we will find
Ken,
out.
We're
but
gonna find
Ken,
out.
I did promise all of our viewers and listeners that if Ace gets it set up, I will go. Now, I produce shows and I do shows at a place called the Bradley Playhouse in Putnam, Connecticut. It is it's 100 and almost 30 years old now, an old vaudeville theater.
He already knows it because he
You know
said
it?
it's haunted.
It has been rumored for a bunch of different things.
Tell him what you saw there.
Yeah, you
And-
go
and-
with that rumored. You can go with that.
Well, I have to say rumored because it's the only way I can justify it in my
Alleged.
head.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that freaked me out the most was I know Jason said that Taps had investigated it.
They did.
Now, before I even told him the story, I had already told Ace this story. Last year during the lockdown, we were doing every Friday night there, we were doing a virtual variety show. People that were members of the theater would send in numbers they recorded at home, and I would sit in the theater and we would do live on Facebook a show, and I would introduce the different numbers. And there was one week I was sitting there, it's me and a couple of people that are running like the camera and stuff like that. And have you been in the theater before?
I have not been, Bradley.
Okay, it's a 400-seat theater, and the bottom section, the back of it, is a glass partition that separates the walkway where the bathrooms and the back walkway is, and the seats. So I'm sitting there, and I introduce a number, and I'm waiting for the number to end, and something catches my eye that's moving along the glass, and I'm like, all right, one of the people sitting down below must have walked by and their reflection is up there. And I look down and they're all sitting down and I'm like, oh, I just missed them. And then I introduce the next number and it goes back in the other direction, the reflection on the glass. And as it's halfway, I look down and they're still sitting in the same position. They haven't moved. Now, I told Ace about this, that I'd seen this, and I told Tom about it. Now, Jason, when he was here, I said to him, oh, yeah, I do these shows at the Bradley Playhouse. He goes, oh, did you see the woman that walks back and forth in the back of the room? And I literally almost shit my pants.
That freaked him out.
But you're looking for that independent corroboration.
And that's the thing.
No, I
He
wasn't
didn't-
looking for it. I
No.
got it anyway.
But that
You got
no,
the bonus.
I got it anyway. But it, literally, he said they were told about it and they were looking for it and they didn't experience it. But I actually, I
but
did
see,
see
that's
something.
the kind of stuff that makes me a believer because
Right.
you had no knowledge of the specifics. You had
No.
heard that, yes, it's an old theater. There's supposedly paranormal activity, but you didn't know the specifics of what happens. You just experienced it. And then all
No.
of a sudden, Jason corroborated it by saying it.
The only thing I had heard was they say there is an actress that had died there back in the 30s that watches the shows from the upper right hand corner of the balcony. And I've looked when I'm on stage there and I've never seen, I can't pick up anything in the back corner. It's very dark. You don't pick up anything. So that I've never seen, but
Right.
I saw
You saw someone walking
shadow.
by,
You know,
right?
theaters we have done from Connecticut to Rhode Island to Mass. We've done a lot of theaters. A lot of times you will give presentations there and end
Right.
up saying, hey, not for nothing, but we spent a little time. And I've always found theaters to be among the more interesting places and the more active places that we've been to. And I don't know, maybe it has to do with the applause, the energy from the crowd, the
Mhm.
big personalities.
Well,
Right,
actors
you know,
are looking. Actors look for attention,
Sure.
and so maybe in the afterlife they're still craving that attention, so they
Why would
hang
you
out
leave?
at the theater. Yeah, exactly.
Some of the best times of someone's life who's an artist are spent in the theater. So it's like,
Exactly.
man, I want to relive that with other presentations and other plays and musical performances, whatever. But typically, they're all pretty active.
Wow.
Great. Now I got to get someone else to produce my shows. Then.
Yeah, no, we're gonna have to have Ken and the group come in. We'll have to do a show one night.
When you're out there, just put some salt around you, Scott.
No, I would actually be interested in doing
an investigation
there. And I could make one phone call, and I'm sure they would give me the keys and let me stay for the night and do an investigation because I'm a member of the theater there and everything.
First, we'll do the Pain House to ease you into it.
That's not easing anybody into anything.
Do you want to ease into it through the Conjuring House? Is that better?
No.
Okay.
No, that's not going to happen.
So
right.
Ease into it with the Pain House, then you do the Conjuring House, and then we'll move over to the Bradley.
Why don't we ease into it through like the Cigar Club in Coventry?
No, I love the fact that Ken said it. He said usually things calm down in the winter, so that's the perfect time to do it.
As we've gone along and I've gotten more educated in this, I have a heightened interest.
Yeah,
I do.
It is.
What I think would be fun is to get to Pain House because you guys do have StreamYard. Take some video of your night there, edit some clips down, and just share with your audience.
That's what we would.
Share me running out the front door as the rocking chair starts going back and forth.
No,
that would be a great one to share.
That's actually what I would love to do. So we will definitely stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Now that we're friends on Facebook, and I have to thank you so much, Ken, for being on tonight because
it's my pleasure.
This literally, honestly, it was so informative. It was so interesting. And it's interesting because even though we've had, people on throughout the whole month doing, talking about paranormal, outside of one person, we had Dave Naughton on. I don't know if you're familiar with a little movie called American Werewolf in London, but he was
early
I
80s.
To remember David.
Yeah. So we had him on, but then we had Tom and we had Satori Hawes and
Cody
and
her
Cody,
boyfriend.
her boyfriend Cody on, and we had Jason on. So it's funny because even though there were similarities among all the guests throughout the month, there were also different stories, and that's what I love. That's why I love this month.
This was kind of a full circle moment for us, Ken, because it all started with Tom 4 years ago and bringing in clips, and a lot of the clips had your voice on.
Yeah,
doing the session. So
I have proven I am not Tom's imaginary friend.
Yes,
exactly. You do exist.
He really does exist.
The guy on the audio recordings actually exists,
and he does speak Fringlish.
He does speak Fringlish. So perfect. So thank you so very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it, and we'll once the episode is up on the social, the actual podcast platforms, we'll let you know. We'll tag you and stuff like that. But
I would love to.
Be ready
on our YouTube page.
That'd be awesome.
Dead Air Full Spectrum. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
We'll have it up there for you.
What else can we promote for you? Your YouTube page is called Dead Air Full Spectrum.
Yeah, we actually have a show on the KGRA digital network.
Okay.
So we live stream to Facebook, YouTube. It's called Dead Air. It's on Sundays from 8 to 10, where we bring on a lot of guests from different areas of the paranormal. This week, we're going to have some 21st century witches on the show.
Oh, wow. Oh, very cool.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the contemporary witchcraft and what's that's all about. But please, when you go there, we're going to deluge you with subscribe to the channel, hit the notification, all that good stuff.
Right.
So, but that's Dead Air from 8 to 10. You can find it on Dead Air Full Spectrum on YouTube. But the biggest thing we have in our future is the 19th and 20th of November. We took a year off last year because the world went sideways, but we're bringing back the 9th annual Ocean State Paracon, which is a charity event that RISEUP puts on every year.
Mm-hmm.
And we benefit different advocacy programs in Rhode Island.
Yep.
We've done the Autism Society, muscular dystrophy, the domestic women advocates against domestic violence. This year, we're going to be doing it for Camp Braveheart, which is a volunteer program for children 4 to 17 years old that offers free grievance counseling to them and their families in an outdoor sort of camp setting.
Okay.
With kayaking and everything like that. So
it's for kids who've lost a parent,
or anybody close to them,
okay,
who are suffering any loss. So
all right.
That's
and
19th and 20th. It's going to be at Plain Ridge Casino in Plainville, Massachusetts. So more information on our Facebook page, Ocean State Paracon.
We will actually look that up because
and I'll include the links in the show notes for the show. So
because
absolutely.
Maybe we'll come up on the 19th. If you don't have a show and I don't have a show on the 19th, I'd love to come up.
Yeah, I would love to go check that out.
19th's a good time because that's our Friday night VIP party, and we'll have a bar ready to go for you guys, and all our celebrity guests will be there. So
that'll be awesome. Let's go up. Let's plan on that.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
All right, that's
and you can
awesome.
pull some slots too. So 100% of all profits that we make from this go to our beneficiary, and that this year is Camp Braveheart.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we'd be honored to come up and check things out. So.
I'd love you too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome.
We definitely
Thank
will.
you, Ken.
Well, listen, Ken, we will be in touch and let you know when the episode's up, and then as time gets closer, we'll come up to the Paracon.
Definitely.
And don't be surprised. I will be reaching out to talk about a date at the Payne House this winter.
Make that happen as soon as a week from now.
Oh, great.
My headphones just cut out. I missed all of that. I don't know what.
Yeah. All right, Ken. I'll be in touch, Ken. Don't worry about it. But thank you so much, man. We'll be in touch. Thanks so much for your time.
Guys, it's been my pleasure. Anytime at all. You guys have a wonderful week.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks, Ken.
All right, and that was Ken DeCosta.
He was awesome.
Oh man, I loved. When Tom said, "Oh, hey man, I can't make it on. I don't know if I'll be able to make it because I lost power." I was like, "Oh, it would have been great to have Tom on it." But then I'm like, "Well, how many people have we interviewed that we didn't know before?" And by the end of the interview, you feel like, all right, we made a new friend tonight. And he's been so cool.
It was weird with Ken because we've heard his voice before.
Yeah, right.
For the last 4 years, we've heard clips with him.
Exactly.
I've been on their website. I've watched videos, on YouTube with him. So I kind of felt like, I already know the guy.
know him, right.
So now I'm talking to him, face to face.
Exactly.
And it didn't feel like weird or uncomfortable because I already knew the guy.
Yeah.
They've done some amazing investigations.
Yeah.
They've, some of the clips that we've heard over the years, but I love his style. That's why I wanted to ask him about that, just that conversational style and that way that he has of being calm.
Exactly.
And so courteous.
Well, and I think what was important,
I love the way that he does
the reason why I really loved having him on too was, everyone knows the paranormal shows, and listen, I love Jason. Jason's a good friend of mine. And that kind of brought paranormal investigations to the mainstream. But what people don't realize is there are more investigative groups besides the ones that you see on TV.
Right.
There's a lot of them. Every state has a paranormal investigation.
And very good ones, too.
Investigation. Actually, that's one of the great things about Ghost Nation. The last year's show that Jason did was they kind of hooked up with different people from different states, other paranormal investigators.
And I like the respect that the groups have for each other, because when we had Jason on, we mentioned Ken, and he spoke
Ken.
Very highly of him.
Exactly.
Very, very highly of him, and talks about some of their investigations and what a good job they do investigating and how they've worked together.
And like Ken said, he's kind of the crossover member from Rise Up to Taps. He's part of Taps as well.
So it's when you get in the behind the scenes of these groups and everything like that, there's a healthy respect they have for each other, for what they do, the way they investigate. And I do like these two groups and the way they do their investigations, because it's not like the typical TV over the top. We're gonna scare
Like,
you.
come at me,
like
bro.
I said, drag you down the hall.
Right.
Type of ghost. They approach it scientifically. They approach it
Right.
from a skeptic's point of view, and so they approach it very differently.
Right.
So
well, and that's what I love even about Tom with his book, the 10 best paranormal
right.
Devices, or what do. Grab the book
right here. We'll promote our buddy
Yeah.
Tom's book, The 10 Best Tools for Ghost Hunting, a list of recommended equipment used by paranormal investigators and how to use them, by Tom Stewart.
And
it's available on Amazon.com.
And his follow-up book, The 10 Worst,
The 10 Worst Ones, yes,
is coming out soon, because we've talked about it before and we didn't get into it with Ken, but I've always watched like the voice box and the all that bullshit. There are definitely things that I just I think they're bullshit, and it has to do with certain shows that they have them on. But no, this was awesome. I can't think of any better way to wrap up Scottober. I hope our audience enjoyed this, because while we are comics and we typically talk about behind the funny, I just like doing something a little bit different that we're interested in for the month of October.
Well, you explained it very well the first time we had Tom on, is that behind the funny is who these people are behind what they are on stage.
Right.
And Tom was a paranormal investigator. Well, this is something you're very interested in.
Yeah, you can tell, huh? I geek out.
Yeah, you geek out big time when we have these people on. Well, over this time, I've developed more of an interest in it from I love history,
right?
Love history. I geek out on history.
Well,
and looking at it from a scientifical side of things, has created more of an interest in me.
And I could tell, because you're not as freaked out when we start talking about stuff. You're more interested.
No, I'm
and like Ken said, it's about history. The Payne House is from the late 1700s.
It's got an amazing history. And when he started talking about how it was the tavern, let's serve them breakfast, and we got the horses
stopover in the stables, right?
In the stables.
And see, I wasn't aware of that. I knew that they had just bought
oh my God, that's amazing.
The old communications building for fire. I didn't realize that it was part of the Payne House from the beginning, and it makes sense, because if you look at the two, they're right there. It makes sense that would be the stopover. And all I could think about the whole time he was talking about it, and I know this is way older, but all I could think about was the taverns in Game of Thrones. You know, where they stop, they bring the horses to the stable, they go in, they have some ale, they have some, some food, and they get to rest. There's a bed and breakfast and stuff like that. And to know that kind of a place was right down the street from me,
right,
is amazing.
Right here in your backyard.
Yeah. And I love the fact that Ken just said, I'll get you into Payne House. I'll get you into Conjuring House.
Okay. You baby steps, my friend.
You
want to go to Conjuring House. I
don't
honestly,
care. I'll leave you behind.
That's
I don't
fine.
care.
That's fine. I don't know that I could handle that one.
I cannot wait.
I'm not even joking about that. I don't know that I could handle
Maybe it'll
Conjuring
be
House.
just our special guest host will be in. Normally our special guest host comes when I'm on vacation, but Scott will find a vacation.
This week on Behind the Funny, we're going to blindfold Scott and not tell him where we're taking him.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'll just take Tom, and Ken.
Dude, I don't know if
I would love to. Are you kidding?
Oh,
this was awesome.
Baby step me. Maybe after I experienced my first investigation at a place like Payne House, I could handle something like that. But you got to baby step me on this.
Hey, one of our friends said, "What's up, guys? Bulldogs, 1992." I don't know who that is, but hey, what's up?
Sup?
What's up? What's up, Bulldogs?
Sup? Thanks for joining us,
That's
Bulldogs.
Awesome. Hopefully you got to watch. All of a sudden we jumped up to more viewers, and the show's almost over.
Bucket list experiences. I recently shot a music video with Haitian witches.
Oh, that's cool.
That is very cool.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah, no, listen. And Mikey Souls just said, hey. So all of a sudden we're getting a ton of people
and Jen
walking up.
Scott was freaking out a little bit last week with the objects. Not a little bit.
Yeah,
I was freaking out a lot.
Like I said, when we put last week's episode up on the podcast platforms, I'll probably throw up on social media I'm going to put
It's
the
going
video.
up tomorrow. It's going up tomorrow.
All right. So tomorrow or between tomorrow or Friday, I will get up the video of Scott watching the video of the doll moving and him going, oh, fuck, no. It freaked him. Tom sent it to me. I was laughing my ass off.
I'm glad you got enjoyment out of it.
So awesome.
That was the freakiest thing I've ever seen.
Now, so listen, folks, we really hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, it's not even though we're a comedy podcast, we have other interests, and Behind the Funny is paranormal is one of our interests. So we hope you enjoyed this month. Even starting with Dave Kane, who was the end of
exactly. That wasn't intended to be that, but it
was a good lead into the month. So if you remember, Dave Kane talked about the Station nightclub fire. Unfortunately, he lost his son in that, and there have been multiple signs that his son is doing okay. That his son has sent to him. Then we had Jason Hawes from Ghost Hunters and Ghost Nation. Then we had Dave Naughton from American Werewolf in London, which was so much fun. Last week we had Tom Stewart with Satori, Jason's daughter
and her
boyfriend Cody,
and they are known as the paranormal couple, and they have the haunted museum,
and that was amazing. That was an awesome shows. And then this week with Ken DeCosta, I can't think of a better way to wrap up. He was Scottober,
like I said, and I meant that he was truly a full circle.
Yeah,
because it kind of started with investigations that were with his group. The first time we did any type of paranormal,
it was just
stuff.
Tom Stewart coming on and talking not about comedy, but about his other interests in paranormal investigations.
And the examples he brought in were from Rise Up Paranormal, which is Ken's group. So to have Ken on finally was a perfect way to wrap that up.
So our friend Jen says, will you be adding the video of the doll moving? I want to see it.
I tried to
get it.
And maybe we can reach out to Satori and Cody and see if they could send it to us. It was a security camera footage of their museum.
Oh, really? Okay. So it happened in the museum.
It happened in their museum.
Where is their museum?
They have it in their house. They didn't
disclose the location.
They have it in their house, and then they take it in a van to the paranormal cons that are all over the place.
And they took it
set
here.
Up in different places.
Didn't they take it here?
They had it in Rhode Island, but that night, last week, they brought in a suitcase full of items, and they didn't get through all the items they brought.
Right. Oh, they didn't get to that doll?
No,
I thought they took the doll out.
No, they had the doll, and we held the doll up to the camera so the crowd could see it.
And that's the doll that moved?
That's the doll that moved.
Fuck. That's awesome.
Now, I hope we get the video, but you see in the video, the doll's arm move, and then the doll straightens herself up and sits up straight, like she's like, all right, all you other motherfuckers are going to pay attention to what I have to say.
Wow.
Now, Satori actually told us, that this doll is very domineering.
Yeah.
That when they first put her in, the next day after they put her in, all the other dolls had been turned around facing away.
Really?
And they had to move her away from the other dolls.
Wow.
Because every morning they'd come in and those dolls were like facing away or moved or different. So they had to actually put her in a different location.
Shit. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah. And then they show us the video of this thing actually moving on the shelf, sitting up straight, and then turning to look towards the other dolls like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So next Scottober, I'm going to have to make sure that we bring Satori and Cody on a night that I'm here. Because that was amazing.
You know what I didn't appreciate was the toe tag.
Yeah.
Because
I heard.
They just said, what do you think this is? And let us touch it. And then they tell us, and I had to sanitize my hands with whiskey, because I had a toe tag in my hand from the Swan Point Cemetery.
A real person. That's funny.
That was awful.
Well, listen, again, folks, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope you enjoyed all of Scottober. We're going to get back to comedy next month. Next week, we have Claudia Stavola. I love Claudia. I can't wait to talk to her.
Yeah, she's going to be a great conversation. You got to tune in for that.
So that's on the 3rd of November. On the 10th of November, we're going to be up at the Boston Comedy Festival again. Our buddy Jim McHugh has invited us up. We're going to get to talk to, we don't even know who. We're just going to talk to comics that are in the festival.
People that are participating.
You know, kind of like we've done at Rogue Island in the past.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And then on the 17th, I've got Kendra Cunningham, very, very funny comic from New York.
Yes.
I love Kendra. I've worked with her a bunch of times. She's one of my favorite comics in New York. And so we have her coming on. And then the 24th is open right now, but I will be filling that very soon. And then, God, we're going to be into December already. And we'll be into
our end of
the year stuff where we usually do 2 episodes of the best of the year, best of 2021.
And one of our favorite episodes, the best of the funny bad gigs.
Best of funny bad gigs, which will also prompt us to start kind of going through the bad gig stories because we are going to be writing
2022, it's going to get done.
It's going to happen. We're going to get this book done because we've had so many great comics share so many funny bad gig stories that we want to compile them in a book.
Yeah.
Especially because we came up with that list of 12 things where you know it's going to be a bad gig when, and we've determined that most of these funny bad gig stories fall into one or more of those
90% of them fall into at least one of those categories.
So we're going to write this book and we're going to put it out because I think people would enjoy hearing about these bad gigs.
Definitely, because that episode we put out every year for the best of the year's funny bad gigs is always a very downloaded and listened to episode, and people seem to really enjoy that. So I think, you know, to compile all those stories would be a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Be a lot of fun.
Well, listen, folks, we know we ran late tonight, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We appreciate you listening. Please tell a friend about us.
And Scottober is over.
Scottober is over, but guess what? We're going to be doing some paranormal investigations coming up, so don't get too excited. But listen, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it. And other than that, we will see you
next week.